All right. Are you ready? What's up, everybody? Hey, I am back here live on a Wednesday. Hopefully, you'll get to see me live on Shorts momentarily. Just waiting for everything to get started over here. What's going on, everybody? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're hailing from. Clone Wars for life. What's going on? How are you doing? I don't know. I know you were in the middle of traveling or are in the middle of traveling, so I don't know if you had a chance to watch episode 3 yet of The Acolyte. But we are here to discuss episode 3. Will this be the episode that will once again divide the fan base of Star Wars? Will it make the fans turn on the franchise all over again? Well, we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it and we'll see how it goes and all that. But always rest assured that this is a place to come to laugh, to cry, to be emotional, to be passionate, but be respectable. And we are here to talk about everything Star Wars related, mostly about Acolyte episode 3. So I guess I'll get into it right now. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off and let's just get into the discussion here. Now, the way I like to formulate these discussions is first, let's just talk about spoiler-free stuff. Whoa, what the hell was that? I'm hearing things in my headset. That shocked the hell out of me. Wait, give me 1 second, y'all. I like to first talk spoiler-free stuff, so I'll give my initial thoughts about the episode. And then we'll get into more spoiler-specific discussions, recapping, and all that good stuff. So in the very beginning, I ask all of you in the chat to at least be kind to your fellow viewers if they haven't seen the episode yet. Some people like to come in and just listen to the initial thoughts and all that, and then we get into the nitty-gritty of it all. So no spoilers until I put on the big spoiler sign on the screen there for everybody. And if we're cool with that, then you're cool with me. All right. So sorry, I was just taking care of some things here. So this episode was written by hold on. I have the Jasmine Flournoy and Eileen Shim, but the director is a director named Kogonada. Sorry, I always have problem with that name. And I didn't realize it until after the episode when I saw who directed the episode, but it did feel like one of his movies. If you're not familiar with him, he's directed films like Columbus, but most importantly, a film called After Yang. This is a movie I saw a couple years ago, I believe, when it first came out. It stars, I forgot who's in it. Is it Colin Farrell is in the movie. And it's a very futuristic like movie, deals with family and cloning and all those things. Very, very much, it felt very much like Star Wars. And the one thing I will say, and this is just my opinion, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people out there who have different opinions. I thought the episode was directed very well. And I thought the writing and the flow, the pacing was done very well too. For a minute, I actually forgot I was watching Star Wars, which is not a bad thing. You know, it felt like a very interesting coming of age type of story that we're watching. We're following these twin sisters going through an initiation, a kind of growing up ceremony. We've seen this in other things before, in other medium and all that. This gets them to the next level of their lives, their adulthoods, going into things. You also have to keep in mind that they're only 8 years old at this point, right? And it very much, we go back in time 16 years, and we actually see the event that was alluded to in the last 2 episodes. that happened on this planet of what's it called? Let's see, planet of Brenduk, where May and Osha are from. And we get to see basically what happened, what caused their village to burn down, and how Osha was rescued by the Jedi Order, right? Because you had, and then we saw very younger representations of Indara, of Saul, Master Saul, Kelnaka. We got to see him in full Jedi regalia for the first time, and a very young Torben. That guy didn't age well in 16 years. We get to see in the first 2 episodes, or at least in the second episode. And these are the 4 Jedi that ended up becoming the main targets of May when the show started, when we were introduced to the characters for the first time. This centers around the family that they had there, which turns into, a coven of witches, so to speak, right? So overall, I thought the episode was done really well, directed really well. I thought it was well written. I thought the performances were okay. But the one thing, I guess, that everyone's going to be talking about and they'll be buzzing about is an introduction to a different point of view of the Force, right? I have a feeling that's going to maybe upset some fans, maybe confuse some fans, or please some fans. Now, for me, I'm kind of indifferent, to be honest with you. Do we forget when we had no Star Wars after the original movies that we got books like this that went into further details, further lore, and further things that we were never introduced to before in Star Wars? What makes this any different, right? This is going back hundreds of years or 100 years in the past. There are things that we don't know about around that time, and there are things that even the Jedi are learning for the first time. Remember, this is a time when the Jedi are so focused on themselves, so focused on working with the Galactic Republic in being the space marshals that they are, that they never really at one time thought that, oh, maybe there could be people out there who are learning about the Force in different ways, right? But you could see in this episode, they're starting to pick up on that. And in their own way, they're trying their best to corral it. They're trying their best to kind of, put order to it and all that. And I don't know, you could call it a recruitment process. You could call it kind of dictatorships in a way. It's kind of weird that if they find someone with exceptional powers or exceptional abilities, that they are kind of forced to join the Jedi Order to train to be Jedi. But they're not really forced. Of course, it's the choice of the individual and all that. I'm just making jokes here and having fun. But, I think there's going to be a lot of talk about that, a lot of talk about the origins of the twins as well. We'll get more into details about that in the spoiler discussion. And I think the episode in general, one of the first things I saw last night after I watched this episode was an article from Forbes magazine. Forbes magazine, which is a financial and business website. How is it that they have somebody with the name of Eric Kane writing for TV, movies, and entertainment? Oh, and video games and culture for Forbes magazine. Forbes is not a publication I would think I would go to for entertainment news, movie news, video game news, or culture news. If I needed to know what's happening with the Dow Jones, the S&P, what's happening on the business levels of Amazon and Facebook or Google, that's where I would go Forbes for. So one of the first headlines I saw, and I'm starting to see a little bit of this type of discourse all over the place, and I'll share this with you right now. The Acolyte Episode 3 review, one of the most disappointing Star Wars episodes ever made. And I read the article. I'm going to save you from this article because it's very negative. He basically complains a lot about the acting, especially the acting of the two 8-year-old kids, right? He talks about the poor writing, the ridiculousness of this new introduction to the lore of the Jedi and all that. He says one thing where IGN, when they gave their episode review of this episode, they said a lot of tantalizing new layers to how we perceive both the Jedi and the Force. And he says, I would like to know if we use different versions of the word tantalizing. So obviously he doesn't agree with all that. He's confused about the motivations of May, and we'll talk more about that in the spoiler discussion. We'll talk more about, he complains about the witch chant, which is the lamest chants he had. He thinks that the Coven is very stupid and weak. He doesn't understand where the budget is going to in this show because he felt like this episode was very lacking. Also, he has criticism about why Tobin killed himself over what. And he doesn't understand what the whole idea and purpose is of this tree. There is a certain tree that is in focus several times around their village. Very Game of Thrones like. If you remember Game of Thrones, they have that kind of tree. I forgot what they call the tree. This is the original Game of Thrones. And it's a place where people kind of like go to relax, go to worship, go to seclude themselves, to have time to think. And Osha uses this tree as kind of the same type of sanctuary for herself. But, you know, they're not supposed to leave the village. We'll talk more about that again in spoiler discussion and everything. I don't agree with an article like that. Personally, I kind of enjoyed the episode. I didn't think it was like outstanding or anything like that, but it did at least shed light into the events of why we should start caring for these characters. It's all about a character building and giving us some background as to what exactly is happening here. Why are these twin sisters so sought after? Why does May have this rage inside of her and this anger inside of her? And why she's seeking revenge on these certain Jedi? You know, it gave us a little bit more of a clear outline as to what may be happening there. I also think that we are not shown everything that is really happening. And again, without spoiling anything, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But overall, my initial thoughts of the episode, like I said, I thought it was well directed. I thought the writing was actually pretty decent. I thought the pacing was good. I thought the performances were good. And everything that was kind of revealed made sense to me. It was more like an aha kind of moment. And then it also started, because you have to think about it too. This series appears to be kind of like a murder mystery thriller type of show. It made my mind start going and start thinking and really start wondering what is really happening here. So if anything, this should allow the audience to start formulating their own theories, their own kind of their speculations of what exactly is happening here and what is the driving motivation of it all, right? So for that, if I was to rate this on a Letterboxd scale, you know, the first episode I would rate it, I probably would have rated it like a 3 out of 5. Second episode I probably would have rated a 4 out of 5. This one I would definitely rate a 3 out of 5, which is not bad. You know, it's not terrible, it's not outstanding, but at the same time, it was pretty good. It wasn't terrible at all. But if anything, it leads to a lot of discussion that we could be having for this. Clone Wars for Life, the witches it's talking about kind of remind me of the Night Sisters. Absolutely. What's up, Lil Sa? Congratulations on finishing up your exam. How did you think you did? We're curious. Kevin Davis, I think Osha going to end being the bad guy. What's going on, Kevin? As always, I always appreciate you hopping in and mic dropping your comments and then leaving. Always appreciate that. I don't think you're that far off, for sure. But we'll talk more about some speculation and theories in the spoiler version of this episode here. But yeah, overall, like I said, it was 45 minutes long. And It didn't feel long. It felt like a right time, and I thought the pacing was done overall very well. I'm curious, what does everyone else think of the episode in general? Did they enjoy it? Did they feel like it was lacking? I'm just curious as to what the chat has to say about it so far. And I'll give a little pause so that we can have discussion about all those things. Do you think the show will get renewed? I already saw an article that said that season 2 has already been greenlit. So I mentioned before that Leslie Headland, the way that she formulated the season was that if it wasn't going to get picked up again for another season, she made it so that it ended in a way that it kind of tied everything up for the important stuff. But she left things open-ended so that if they were to continue with season 2, there are things they could definitely explore. So Clone Wars for Life thought it was okay. Really didn't really mind it all that much. Yeah, I think it did very well, according to Lil Saw. Okay. So I think in general, people here are mainly positive about the whole thing, which is pretty good to see. So it's good to kind of see that happening. Hold on. I have something going on here. Give me one moment, guys. I'm sorry. Weird. Something weird is happening here. Give me 1 minute, guys. Sorry. My apologies. Sorry, y'all. I promise I'll start talking again in a minute. Technical. I love it when things get... All right. Every stream, there's always something. All right, cool. I think I figured it out. All right. So yeah, so I think at least here in this chat, the overall sentiment is that people liked the episode. But I think at the same time, people thought it wasn't outstanding, right? It wasn't anything mind-blowing. So let's go into spoiler discussion right now. And again, this live stream is basically just going to be talking about this episode of The Acolyte. And now we have free reign to talk about everything that we want to talk about. And, don't hesitate to ask away or make any mentions about the episode in the comments. Kevin, how much money do you think Inside Out 2 will make at the box office? Okay. I think Inside Out 2, based on the first 30 minutes that I watched last week, can I say that yet? The embargo lifts in about a couple of hours. I can't really explain in detail what I saw, but at one point I went into it very hesitant. I came away wanting to see more of the movie. I think it's going to be very successful. If Bad Boys was able to do around 56 million-ish, I think Inside Out 2 will be close enough to that range, if not 60 to 65. Also keep in mind, and I don't know if general audiences know this or not, this movie is going to end up having legs because Disney announced that it's going to leave it in theaters for 100 days straight. And so that would mean that it would probably hit streaming at earliest maybe October or September, right? So people are going to have to wait a long time to watch this at home. And I think when more and more people realize that, the more they're going to go out to theaters to watch it. So I think it's going to have staying power. So opening weekend, probably like around the range I mentioned. Overall, in the long run, in this landscape, probably 300 to 400 million. That's just my guess. Clone Wars wise. So with these new witches being shown, do you think it's possible we will see the Night Sisters in this show? Just to show how the Jedi taking more Force-sensitive children. So we did see the Night Sisters in Ahsoka, right? But of course, this was already during a time when I guess the universe are aware that the Night Sisters exist. We've already also seen the Night Sisters in the video games, Fallen Order and Survivor, right? So it is possible that maybe we will see the Night Sisters appear in this show. The interesting thing that they're doing here, and let's just talk about the big reveal about this coven of witches on this planet of Bendark. It's called Bendark, right? I just want to make sure. I don't want people to say this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Brendok. On this planet of Brendok, these coven of witches figured out a way to utilize the Force in their own way and are kind of training each other how to manipulate it, right? They even in this episode they make mention that the Jedi uses this thing and they call it the Force, but we call it the thread, right? And it's more of like a push and pull type of mentality, type of feeling. The Night Sisters of, is it Dorathmir or Dorthamir, something like that. They use their version of the Force along with the essence of that planet, which is like that green mist and all that. So everyone has the ability to conjure up the Force because remember, Dathomir, thank you. In the movies, thanks to Rian Johnson, whether you like that movie or not, it's already been explained that everybody has the Force. Everyone has the Force with them. Some people are just more in tune than others when it comes to the Force, and they can manipulate it and use it any way they can. We saw that with Little Broom Kid at the end of the movie he directed, where the Broom Kid is just looking up into space and then, hell, give me the broom, and all that kind of stuff. And he's not even in training for anything. So it was really interesting to see, at least, and it makes sense to me, when you have this thing in the universe that everyone can, tap into, you're going to expect that there are going to be groups of communities, coven of witches, however you want to call them, that will figure out a way to utilize this thing in their own way and for their own advantages, right? That's just how it is. And I think we learn in this episode that at this time, the Jedi are very naive to all of that. And they're slowly starting to learn that this is a possibility and this could potentially lead to a problem. Because remember, at this time too, the Jedi were not aware that the Sith were around. I think the Sith have been around during this time. It's just they were keeping themselves hidden until the right moment strikes for them to show up and pop up. And I'm pretty sure at the same time, within this timeline, you have the sisters on the Night Sisters who are practicing their own version of the Force too. So I didn't mind that at all. I thought that was very well done and very well explained. And to me, it makes sense. Again, if you've been following pretty much what they've been uncovering about the lore of the Jedi, of the Force, and all that in the movies and some of the recent stuff. I think the one big thing that's really going to either upset the fans or confuse the fans is that it appears that the sisters, the twins, were birthed from the Force. And I think there's going to be a lot of people saying, well, wait a minute. We thought that the only one that can be birthed from the Force is the chosen one, right? So, which ended up becoming Anakin. So I'm pretty sure they're going to give more explanation about that, because you have Mother Anastasia, who I guess partnered with I believe the character's name is the Coral Mother, who is a being from Dathomir, right? And is very much related to the Darth Maul, same species, same alien. And we already know that the Night Sisters on that planet practice the Force in a certain way. So I'm wondering here, if you had this person introduced her methods of practicing the Force with Mother Anastasia's way of practicing the Force, and they figured out some sort of ritual that allowed them to create and birth these children, which we come to find out the Mother Coral, or the Coral Mother, however she's referred to, kind of birthed the children herself, right? With the help, I mean, they were conceived with the help of Mother Anastasia, but she was the one that was carrying the kids this whole time. So she is very protective of the twins. And the reason why the Jedi were there is because they caught wind of training young kids of the Force, at least the way they look at it. And apparently there's some sort of rule or law that this is illegal. You can't do this without proper jurisdiction or proper instruction. But like I said, if you have something that people can tap into, you're not going to be surprised if you're going to have groups of people trying to manipulate it in their own ways. And of course, they're going to call it their own ways and all that. So that is definitely one thing that, you know, I kind of found myself pausing at. I was like, wait a minute. So can anyone just birth kids from the Force? Is this going to be a thing? Or was this a thing back then? Or is this another prophecy that we are not aware of, right? Is this another thing? Now, I don't watch any of the High Republic books or go back to any of the High Republic stuff. So maybe there's another legend or lore or prophecy about children of the Force, right? And if that's true, I'm pretty sure, or at the very least, I'm hoping that this series and the next episodes or some of the episodes will kind of explain that even more so. So yeah, so if we're recapping the episode here, we introduced to the 8-year-old kids, right? They are outside of their village. They're not supposed to be outside of the village because they're being protected for some reason, which is what we ever come to find out, right? Did you ever end up looking up math? Oh, not yet. Not yet. Yesterday became a little nuts for me, but I have it written down. Just, again, this is proof. I don't know if you could see it. I have it written down, and it's here on my side that it's something I definitely want to look up. So, not yet. But I promise I will when I have a chance. So, and then we find out that Master Saul, a very young-looking Master Saul, with his young BTS haircut, is kind of hunting them down, right? Then we get introduced to their village. We find out there are a bunch of these witches who are about to perform a coming-of-age ritual for the twin sisters. You know, but we see a conversation between Mother Anastasia and the Coral Mother being very protective of the kids, you know, saying that, oh, they're just being kids and all this kind of stuff like that. And it's like, no, you don't understand. They're very important. We got to be careful. The Jedi are probably lurking around. And it's like, well, if we don't see them, we have nothing to worry about. No. And then we get to see a little bit of the training, the understanding of what they call the thread, which is their version of the Force. Like I said, it has to do a lot with push and pull more than anything. The kids are being bratty kids and they're fighting each other and they're gonna like knock it off. And one, May, always seems to be very serious and very adamant about, I want to continue being a witch. I want to get this ritual done. I want to do more training. Osha, on the other hand, is more of like the stargazer, more of like the free spirit. Let's say she's more of like the Luke of the series. You know, where she doesn't necessarily want to be so confined to this one village. She has ideas of exploration. One of the reasons why she loves leaving the village is because she wants to see what's out there. You know, the idea of the Jedi and all that is interesting to her. So we get to see that there's already a disconnect, right? Yeah, we have one sister who's very adamant about this. You have another sister who's a little very much adamant about something else. The mother is trying to teach them that you two are one, you know, one and the same. You're both sisters. You should really be together. And in a way, trying to convince them to make the right choice. And of course, May's like, yeah, you're going to make the right choice. You're going to be a witch. And Osha's like, I guess. Geek Ledger, I don't think it's prophecy related, and force manipulation to create life is definitely possible by force users regardless of affiliation, but it's just not common. By the way, what's up, Geek Ledger? Love seeing you back here. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good week so far. Um, Possibly. I think at this point, until we learn more, that's very, very possible. Again, it would just be. I personally would love to see just how common this is, or if, like I said, if this could possibly be related to something within the High Republic era. What's going on, Ghost? Thank you for chiming in and hanging out with us. The Jedi are kind of a religious cult, if you think about it. Well, yes, I think that's like a common thing that everyone has always been said. That not just the Jedi, but I think the Force in general, anyone who practices the Force as hardcore as the Jedi or the Sith, that's a very cult-like mentality. So yes, I don't disagree there. But yeah, so fast forward into the episode, we get to see the ceremony that the twins are about to have, and of course, we get to see the coven of witches really in unison, manipulating and using the Force in a way that creates this very strong thing around them, this major aura, to the point where it looks like they're affecting the moons above their own planet, just to show you kind of how strong of the manipulation can be. And this is where we get the first time where we finally see Osha kind of, in a way, stand up for herself, or kind of be very hesitant and reluctantly says that she wants to continue being a witch. May, on the other hand, was like, hell yeah, I want to be a witch. And then this is where we have the Jedi come in, quote unquote, trespassing. That's where we see a very young Indara, young Saul, Kalnaka, and Torben as they show up. And this is where we get to understand that there is definitely a divide between these witches and the Jedi. And we get to see Jedi once again becoming like the space marshals, saying that, we hear that you're training kids and that's illegal and we can't do that. And if there's anyone of high importance or of interest, they have to be tested if they could be trained to be Jedi and this and that. So they're being very, very controlling of that whole situation. And this is the first time we get to see Osha saying, I want to be a Jedi. And May's like, what the hell's wrong with you? And all that. And I'll get to the chats in a little bit. Let me just finish this quick recap. And then, they have a discussion with their mom. They agreed that, okay, tomorrow we're going to let the kids go to your place, have you guys train or have you guys tested, and then we'll see if, they want to be Jedi or not. But separately, they have the mother has a discussion with the kids saying, hey, look, if you want to become Jedi, or if they think that you can be Jedi, that means they're going to take you away from us. You're not going to be part of this village anymore, and more than likely, you'll never see us again. So they come up with an idea. It's like, okay, we'll lie during the testing. They go there. May, of course, lies, no problem. Osha goes, and she's conflicted. She's trying to lie, but you could see Saul is seeing her as like, wait a minute, I don't think this girl is telling me the truth. Let's find out. And kind of breaks her down, not using the Force, just being honest with her, talking seriously, right? And she's like, look, I can't lie. I have to be honest. I really want to become a Jedi, blah, 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 this and that. So they take the test again, and it sounds like she did very well and all that. But before that, we got to see Padawan Torben at the time, take her blood sample, which is very reminiscent of what Qui-Gon did to little Annie in episode 1. So I thought that was like a nice little throwback. I also appreciate the fact that they didn't mention metachlorians. Metachlorians is not something that's been mentioned since the prequels in a very long time. And I'm glad they didn't do that. So, but at least they alluded to it when he was taking a blood sample. Okay, back to the chat. Geek Ledger, also, I didn't think these witches are evil, like some people are saying. I don't think they're evil either. I think Lucasfilm is expanding the definition of light side and dark side of the Force. Totally agree there. Like, just look at the Jedi video game series. Like, Cal is definitely on the side of good, but he's tapped into dark side powers. Also, not just Cal, but they also kind of explored that in Unleashed. If you remember that game Unleashed too, where you could kind of be in the middle. And in Knights of the Old Republic, you could kind of go kind of middling in the same way too. Ghost, I like he's expanding dark light sides. Doesn't that risk even more literal melodrama? Yes and no. It depends on how you look at it. I think just like in real life, kind of like what I was mentioning before, anyone who has access to something, they're going to find ways to use it to their own advantage or to their own liking. The fact that it was already been clarified that everyone has the Force, you're going to find communities, groups of people who are going to find ways to tap into that and use it to their own advantage, if they're strong enough to do so. Geek Ledger, we've had that in the past in the old expanded universe. Legends like Starkiller was eventually on the side of good. Hence why I'm wearing this shirt today. Again, we are so easy to forget stories like this back in the day where we dove more into stuff within the lore of the Force and the Jedi and all that. So yeah, I don't see anything wrong with what's happening in this episode. Why do you put trespassing in quotes? Isn't it police invasion? Well, the thing is, the reason why I did that is because when the Jedi showed up, they didn't come busting through the doors or anything like that. I believe they just kind of waltzed in, right? So, and they made it very clear that their intention was not evil or any any will of malice. They're just there to have a conversation. Now, they weren't invited in, so I can see how that is, but I wouldn't say it's like an invasion at all. Ghost, it's the binaries in Star Wars that are a problem in artistic terms. What if the good light side and the Jedi is just propaganda to get us all compliant to a fundamentalist settler colonial project? Okay, hold on. I'm just trying to think more deeper about this. So I see where you're going with this, and I think the one thing that we're going to learn from this show, because one thing I mentioned is that I think the events that unfolded here, we're not seeing the full picture. And I think what's going to happen here is that we're definitely going to end up having a different point of view of the Jedi at the end of the series. And this is something I've always believed. I feel like during the High Republic time, the Jedi Order was very high on themselves. And they saw themselves as the major authority when it comes to anything Force related. And they're working very closely with the Galactic Republic to kind of corral all of these things. I think we're going to see the Jedi looked on in a bad way in this show, because I do think that there's something at play here with the events that unfolded on this planet. So I think we're going to see a little bit more of that divide and maybe get a different point of view on the Jedi light and dark side and all that stuff. I've got to go. All right, Clone Wars for Life. Sorry if you've gone. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Clone Wars for Life is currently traveling. He's attending a karate tournament this weekend, so wish him luck on his tournament. Geek Ledger, I personally think dark side, light side should refer to what kind of Force user is using the Force. I don't think there's a light side or dark side to the Force. It's just the Force. Yeah, and I think that's like a simple labeling thing, right? At this point, it's there's definitely a gray area. So I think it's easy to say that there are extremes, right? There are extremes light side users, there are extreme dark side users, but they're definitely in between people too. Remember, Luke also fiddled around with light and dark at one point, and Obi-Wan did as well. If you recall, when he fought Darth Maul in Phantom Menace, he had to, in a way, hone in on a little bit of that dark side within him in order to at least try to keep up pace with Darth Maul. And we've seen Obi-Wan mess around a little bit with both sides. I definitely think Qui-Gon did as well, right? So, but that cannot be shown fully, or else they probably would have been kicked out of the Jedi Order or anything like that, right? So goes, okay, I got you. So we should let the story play out. I think so. But I think a lot of the things that you're thinking about is very valid. I think there's just a lot of things in there that we could potentially see revealed in this series and all. So great conversation, guys. Keep it coming. I love the conversation and the thought process behind it all. See, this is how fan communities can have decent conversations and not be toxic or all that stuff. Unlike this Forbes article that was extremely negative that I read earlier. But anyway, I digress. So back to the recap. So first of all, I have to say, I really loved seeing the Jedi in their element. And I also love that no matter what, Jedi, warrior, or what have you, bounty hunter, Wookiees are always the ones that are going to be good at tech, because that is their trade, right? So I love seeing that the Wookiee Jedi Kelnaka was just busy fixing the speeder and fixing parts of the ship. So I really, really love that. So obviously afterwards, when they find out that Osha wasn't able to lie, May gets really mad, and this forces her to get into this crazy rage, which went way overboard in my opinion. So much so she's like, I'm going to kill you so that you don't leave, and locks her up in the room, sets the room on fire. Osha finds a way to escape, but then things are happening as she's getting out there. The core of the power of the camp is exploding. They have a moment, where they're just looking at each other, and in front of Osha's eyes, May falls down. Looks like she may have died. She gets saved by Master Saul. We find out that all the witches in the coven, including her mom, have been obliterated, and they save Osha, put her on the ship. And this was also kind of an interesting choice too, creatively. This is the first time we got to see Jedi really get emotional. Master Saul was getting very emotional with Osha, and maybe there's something that he can relate to that maybe will be revealed later on. But he made a promise to Osha that they're going to take care of her, and they promise her that this will never happen again and she'll never have these feelings again, which was bizarre. I've never seen the Jedi kind of do that and have that type of emotion there. And then, of course, at the end of the episode, we finally find out that May never died. She survived. She made it to the tree, right? This nice little yellow tree. I think in hopes that she's going to find Osha there, since that is Osha's place to go. And she's not there. So that's basically the recap of the episode there. So I think the other biggest thing outside of the new introduction of a new perspective of the Force and the birthing of the two kids utilizing the Force, I think there are going to be two other things that are going to be talked about from this episode. One, May's intention. Why did May blow off the handle that would have forced her to not only burn her sister down, burn the whole village down, and kill all the witches, including her mom? And two, is this really what happened? Right? Because I have some theories, and I think it'll be interesting to talk about it. Geek Ledger, yeah, I've seen people saying that this destroys Star Wars and disrespects George Lucas, yet people forget George Lucas never said the Jedi Order, the organization, were the good guys. The Jedi philosophy idea was centered as good, but George Lucas had said the Jedi Order fell for a reason. I personally think that the prequels is a critique on organized religion with the Jedi and extremism. I need some coffee, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not fully awake yet. Extremism. You know what I'm trying to say when it comes with the Sith. I agree with all that stuff here. And I do think, again, because Leslie Headland has said that she really appreciated what George Lucas was trying to do, even though she also said that there were some things that she didn't agree with George Lucas on. But I think she's taking those same concepts, those same ideas, and I think she's utilizing that in this show. I don't think it's far off saying that I think at the end of the series, or at least this season, we're definitely going to be seeing the Jedi in a different light. And I don't know, would it get to the point where maybe, those who are against the Jedi and maybe on the darker side of things, could they be right? I always like it when creative people kind of force the users to change their way of thinking. And I feel like Leslie is definitely that type of person who's going to attempt to do that with a series like this, with a show like this. Um, and she's kind of testing that now with this current episode right here. Leading to this episode, she was saying, and a lot of people are saying that this may test kind of the fandom in a way of how they're going to take what is going to be revealed in this episode. And I think we're seeing that right now. What's up, Joseph Ricci? Nice of you to chime. Yes, we are talking spoilers right now. So feel free in the comments section to have at it. We've been talking spoilers now. I just did a full recap of the episode. Now we're going to talk about some of the intricacies of what the discourse may be starting today. Sure. Joseph, you're more than welcome to share spoilers with us. Let me take a breather because I've been going off for a while here. And Geek Ledger and Ghost really loved the conversation, like I said before. Great back and forth. And for those of you who are here who haven't let me know yet, I'm curious, even with all the discussion, even with the discourse happening online, what did you think of the episode in general? I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was good. The directing, I thought was well done. The pacing was good. And I actually appreciate the additions to the lore that we've never gotten before. Geek Ledger, to me, it feels like Star Wars is doing what Star Trek did with its more recent entries. It challenges the status quo by making things more gray than black and white. Yeah, absolutely. However, I will say this. Now, I haven't watched much of the new Star Trek stuff, to be honest with you. I've seen the first season of Picard. That's the length of the new Star Trek that I've seen. And what threw me off is when they started cursing in it. I'm so used to Star Trek being so friendly and curse-free that the minute they started saying shit and fuck on the shows, I was like, what? What's happening here? So that totally threw me off big time. I just had to share that because I thought that was so not Star Trek-like. Chris, what's going on, Chris? Continue the spoilers, still finishing the episode. Okay. So let's talk about May's motivation here, right? Now, if you have siblings, right, I'm sure you've encountered moments where you are so angry with them that you have notions like, I want to kill him, but you never really carry it out, right? For some reason, May's motivation is so extreme. And I think because, this is just my opinion, I think it's because the dark side of the Force, or the extreme darker side of the Force, is stronger within her. One of the things I always thought about was, when it comes to the Force, your personality has a big part to play as to which side of the Force you may gel with. So I think if you are really good at heart, then you are always going to lean towards more of the lighter side of the Force. If you have kind of chaotic intentions, I kind of look at this as like Dungeons and Dragons, right? Where there's the chaotic side, the lawful side, and then there's the neutral side, right? So I feel like if you lean more towards the chaotic, then obviously that's where the Force is going to gel with you. So I do think May, in deep inside of her, definitely has more of the chaotic personality, the chaotic energy, and which may have led her to carry out certain things that she's done. Right now, in my opinion, I don't think she was responsible for the death of all the witches, for the Coven, and for her mom. I have a feeling, and this is just my speculation, and I would love to have a conversation with all of you about this. I think Master Torben had something to do with that. Because why was he in Jedi jail, so to speak? Why was he kind of punishing himself and eventually took his own life? Because of the events that happened here, right? Now, we did get a glimpse that he was able to be manipulated by the witches when they kind of took over his mind for a brief moment. So I feel like Padawan Torben, is very easily manipulated. And it's quite possible that maybe he may have been manipulated by the dark side of the Force and may have been the one responsible for the death of the village and the death of everyone else. And I think the rest of the Jedi know that, and that's why they were there to kind of stop him, and why it was very convenient that Master Soul happened to be there in order for him to save Osha right before she fell and could have fallen to her death. So I don't know. All right, Joseph Ritchie here with his big spoiler. May and Osha are one girl. Osha has a doppelganger who is May. This is a horror Star Wars show. I also know that Vernestra Rowe is the master. Please timestamp this. Remember, I shared this with you. They clearly showed this in episode 3 times. Once in the opening scene, second time in front of the Jedi ship, third time on the bridge. When they are in scenes together, they show the doppelganger clearly. All right, that's an interesting theory. I know one of the theories going around out there, it was that maybe May is a figment of Osha's imagination. Maybe she doesn't exist. So there's that. I don't know if I necessarily agree with this theory, but it's an interesting one, only because they already had discussions about birthing the twins. So I think it's known that they are twins and that they are sisters. So, but I don't hate that theory, but that's definitely an interesting one. Geek Ledger, well, Picard season 1 and 2 was pretty okay to mediocre. The quality of the finale season 3 picked up when they got a new showrunner. Chris saying chaotic neutral. Exactly. You know exactly where I'm heading with that. Geek Ledger, Discovery is okay to good. Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks, and Prodigy are all great. That's your opinion. Okay. I've always been curious about Star Trek, especially the new stuff. So I'll take that. I'll keep that in mind when I go into thinking about maybe starting up one of those series. But yeah, Picard season 1 threw me off big time. So yeah, so I have strong feelings that, again, we're not being shown the full story here. I do think the Jedi are semi-responsible for what happened in that village on that planet. I think May definitely started the fire. Obviously, we've seen it. Started the fire in front of Osha's room, but I don't think she was responsible for everything else. And I think, if anything, she feels bad because maybe she felt like she was the one responsible for it all. But there's a reason why she has to be after the Jedi, right? So she's probably under the idea that maybe it was the Jedi that destroyed the village, or that led to the destruction of the village and the Coven and their mom. So that has to be the kind of the driving motivation for May. As to how May came into her further training and who is this master she's following, I'm pretty sure we're going to be introduced to those concepts and what's happening there in future episodes. So, Geek Ledger, yeah, I think Picard and Discovery wanted to flex that they were on a streaming service and not broadcast TV, so they cussed a lot in the earlier seasons. Yeah, again, it would have been, I would have had the same reaction if we went to the theater and we watched Force Awakens and all of a sudden you see Finn say, "Holy shit, Rey, look out." You know, it would have been the same. I would have been like, what are we doing here? You know, so to see, like, you know, people on that show saying this is fucked up or holy shit, you know, like, it was just so bizarre to me. It totally threw me off. Now, imagine Leslie Hamlin decided that, you know what, we're gonna go off the rails with this series. Let's have them curse as well. So it'd be really funny if all of a sudden we see Sauce like motherfucker, or May gets in her rage moment again. She's like, "Fuck you, Jedi." Yeah, it'll be really, really interesting to see all that pan out. So my own theory also is that I think, because when we saw the dead bodies, right? We definitely saw the dead body of the Mother Anisea. We saw the dead bodies of all the other witches, but we never really, or at least they never really focused on the dead body of the Coral Mother, or the Mother Coral. What, you know who I'm talking about? Lady Death Maul, or Lady Darth Maul. That's what I'm going to call her. I have a strong suspicion that she survived. She found May, and she's the one that's ending up training May more on the darker side of things. I have a feeling that's my speculation there. And the master that we see, I think, is her. Could be wrong, but I think that it's potential that we could be leading towards that route. To be honest with you. But yeah. It'll be really interesting, and I haven't read a lot of the fan reactions online, but I'm pretty sure it's very mixed right now. Very, very mixed. Geek Ledger, I was fine with it in Picard because most of them are retired and not in Starfleet anymore, so they're civilians now. It's not a military political environment, so they talk like normal people. Yeah, I guess when you look at it that way, for sure. I guess it's just when you've gone through, God, how many years of Next Generation? And now to have it just thrown in your face like that, it's just kind of funny. Geek Ledger said he enjoyed this episode. Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. What was your favorite? For those of you who've watched the episode, what's your favorite part of the episode? If you liked it. If you didn't like it, what was the part that you hated the most? Like I said, this Forbes article is the one thing that stood out to me, because this guy hated the acting, the writing, the lore. What else did he hate? He hated the fact that he doesn't understand May's motivation, and he definitely thinks that there's something more at play here, which I do agree with. He said the chanting was lame. That was the lamest chant song. I didn't mind it. Geek Ledger saying the witch's ceremony, that was cool. Yeah, I agree. I thought the whole ceremony was interesting. It goes back to what I said before. It's like, you're gonna okay. If we're gonna look at the Force, the Jedi Order, like religion, let's use the Catholic religion as an example here. All right. The Catholic religion comes from Christian beliefs and all that, but you have different sectors that practice Catholicism in different ways, right? They all kind of originate from one same sentiment, but they all follow it in different ways, right? And then you have sectors that spawn off of that religion, and then you get into like baptism and all that kind of stuff like that. We're not going to make this a full-on religious discussion, because that's just going to lead to nothing but bad things. But when you look at it that way, what makes this any different, right? So if you have a bunch of people who believe in something, plus they have the ability to tap into something, of course they're going to utilize it in their own way, for their own means, the way they think it should be tapped into and utilized. And that's what we're seeing here with this coven, with these witches, And I thought it was kind of cool. I think it was very, very. Plus, it showed you how strong the Force can be when you get a group of people, focused on one thing. The fact that they were able to affect the environment around them, even so much so, like I said, it looked like they were affecting the moon above the planet. That's how strong the Force can be when you have the group of people all working in unison for something. Very, very interesting stuff. Geek Ledger also, I really dislike the current conversation around this show on social media. I've seen a ton of homophobia and so-called fans getting mad that two women manipulated the Force. Oh, that's just ridiculous. Really? Is that what's happening online right now? Look, I'll say it. I've said this before. I'll say this again. You already had a group of people that were planning to hate this show even before it came out. And maybe it's because they don't like Leslie Headland, whether it's because of her sexuality or her point of views. Amandla is also, they go by they. So maybe they don't like her as an actress and as kind of representation and all that. So I'm not surprised, but at the same time, I'm very disappointed that there's that type of discourse happening online because of what? Two women being able to have children together? Come on, stop it. Stop it. You know, you could tell, like, when we were first introduced to Mother Anisea and the Coral Mother, that they were definitely in a relationship together. And I thought that was fine. I was like, I remember watching it and seeing when they were having the discussions about the girls. It's like, oh, look at that. Like they're together. You know, they really act like moms. You know, and they're very, one is extremely overprotective of the kids, while the other is like, well, they're kids. Kids will be kids. This is what kids do. You know? So it was kind of nice to see that dynamic there. Yeah, well, internet will be internet, right? What can you do? I'm curious, what do people think about Joseph's theory about doppelgangers? I thought it's an interesting one. It's creative. I like it. And I like I said, it plays along with the fact that I think some people were expecting or thinking that May is a figment of Osha's imagination, which is interesting in theory too. But I think this particular episode, I think, in my opinion, helped clear things up a little bit. Curious what everyone else has to say in regards to all of that. Yeah, and like I said, we're in spoiler discussion here, so feel free to comment and chat about anything about the episode. And also, I was correct. Last week, I said that it's crazy that they killed off Master Indara, and we're probably going to just see her in flashbacks. And this was a good example of that. So we got to see her once again. She was not wasted. Like Carrie-Anne Moss was not wasted in this series. We're definitely going to see flashbacks of her as we get more reveals about what exactly happened on that planet. Because, like I said, we are not being shown the full picture just yet. And then I truly feel like the Jedi are responsible, particularly Torben, and we're going to see how all that plays out. And again, it was really nice to see Kelnaka. There's something about seeing a Wookiee Jedi that kind of melts my heart a little bit. I'm like, it's kind of cool, but at the same time, the Wookiee's the one fixing the ship, you know, fixing the speeder. What's going on, Star-Lord? Star-Lord in the house. Star-Lord, we're talking about episode 3 of The Acolyte. What did you think about it if you've seen it? Clone Wars, what have you missed? So, several things. We have Joseph in the chat from before, who provided a very interesting theory. And I'll reread it for everyone here, because he's begging me to timestamp this. His theory is that May and Osha are one girl. Osha has a doppelganger who is May. This is a horror Star Wars show. I also know that Vernestra Rowe is the master. And he said they clearly showed it in episode 3 times. Once in the opening scene, second in front of the Jedi ship, and third on the bridge. So curious to hear what all you think about that. I think it's a nice theory, but I think the episode did a good job at clarifying that these two are real sisters and they were birthed from the Force. Geek Ledger, my dad got really upset watching the episode. Really? I didn't know that Jedi took kids from their parents. Ah, yeah, he's only seen the movies and a handful of the live action shows. He was mad about that for a bit. Yeah, well, again, it's this show is going to test how we feel about the Jedis during this time, and like I said, it's funny how we're seeing them truly as like the marshals of space working with the Galactic Republic, and they do think very highly of themselves. They do think that they're the above all and all when it comes to authority of the Force. And I did have that same reaction too. It's like, well, if they test well, they're going to have to train with us. But they did also kind of mention that, it is, of course, the choice of the individual if that's what they want to do. But it feels like in order for them to train at all, it has to be done through the Jedi Order, and that's it. Otherwise, it's seen as illegal to do so outside. So I did find all of that very interesting. So in a way, I could kind of understand where your dad's coming from. Star-Lord, I felt completed after watching episode 3 of The Acolyte. Look at that. Everyone here, at least, and it makes me feel good, seems to appreciate this episode. So that's awesome. That's good to hear. Star-Lord, what was your favorite moments of the episode? Or if there is one thing you could criticize, what would you criticize on it? So seriously, it illustrated what I was a little confused of with the backstory. Yes, but I also think at the same time we're not being shown the full story. We get a sense of what happened, right? And we kind of get an idea of May's motivation, but I feel like there's definitely more to it. Remember, this is a murder, mystery, crime thriller type of series. So I think there's another layer to this. And it does involve the Jedi, particularly, in particular, Torben. I think Torben is going to be a very important figure in this whole storyline because we've already seen how easily he was manipulated by the Coven of Witches. So I think something got into him that may have caused what happened on that village, on top of already May's aggravation with the sister, which may have kind of forced her to set the room on fire. So there's definitely someone at play here. And my speculation is the one who's at play is Mother Coral, or Coral Mother, however you want to call her. Can someone please let me know what her real name is? Because I feel bad just calling her whatever. Lady Darth Maul, I'll call her that. I think she's the one behind it all, because she's the one that is always been kind of adamant about protecting the sisters, not letting them go. She is from Dathomir, I believe. At least the race is. So I have a feeling she has a little night sister in her, and that's kind of leading to what's happening overall. Star-Lord said it completed episode 1 and 2. I don't really care why. I just want to know how first. Well, there you go. All right. Oh, and again, see, here I am, very bad at this. Can everyone who's watching do me a major, huge favor? Do me a favor and just hit that like button. I would greatly appreciate it. You would make this guy extremely happy. And or hit the like button if you like this shirt I'm wearing. It's a nice throwback to old school legacy Star Wars, if you know what I'm talking about. So. And give me 1 second, guys. I'm just checking my phone, making sure that the world's not blowing up outside. All right, cool. She's Zabrak, but not Dathomirian. There are two sects of Zabrak. Regular Zabrak are shades of brown and are shades of red, blue, and green. Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you for letting me know about that, Geek Ledger. But that being said, do you think that maybe there's still a possibility that she still has that kind of evil intentions in her? Are they? Would this? Would they be ballsy enough to try and attempt to give us an explanation and reason why Darth Maul was so feared at one point? And is it because is she somehow tied to that? Maybe I'm going off the rails here, and I'm like Mr. Fantastic stretching. I'm doing the Plastic Man right now, but could they possibly be trying to do something like that? I mean, I wouldn't be mad if that's true, but it would be very interesting if they kind of tried to, say that, Darth Maul's lineage has always been tied closer to the darker side of the Force. I don't know. Then again, what do I know? I'm just some random dude here on the internet, right? How about you thank them, dickless? Ooh, I don't think any of you heard that on the mic. My back just cracked what felt like 50 times. Ooh, that felt good. What's up, everybody? If you are new tuning in, we are talking spoilers for episode 3, The Acolyte. Feel free to chime in with any thoughts, comments, questions, all the like. Hit that like button, all that. So Darth Maul was a badass mean mugger. He sure was. Sure was. There's a reason why Suck loves him so much. And if Suck was here, we could have a discussion about Darth Maul, because I finally watched that video he asked me to watch. So what do you think the rest of the series is going to be about? Or what do you think is going... So episode 4 next week. Most critics had a chance to watch the first 4 episodes. So, and there's probably a reason why they gave them 4 episodes, because it probably gives you a good idea of the overall arc that they're trying to accomplish here. So with episodes 1 and 2 giving us an idea of the current characters of play, episode 3 going back in time, explaining exactly what happened, right? Or kind of what happened. What would episode 4 do? Are we going to go back into present time in the show? Or are we going to do back and forth, maybe understanding more about May and what led her to become what she is currently in present time? Or are we going to find out what's going to happen with Kelnaka? Because that's how episode 2 ended, right? With them, with the introduction of Jedi Kelnaka on his planet. Star-Lord, he wasn't Sith, he was pissed. He was just really mad, right? Clone Wars for Life, I think it's going to be the Jedi training part. Oh, I could see that. I could see a parallel happening, maybe in episode 4, where we see the training of Osha and maybe the potential training of May separately, right? I can kind of see them going back and forth and doing like a duality like episode, kind of like, this is the one episode where the title wasn't like a dual title. Episodes 1 and 2 were dual titles. This could be like kind of like a dual thing with episode 4. Geek Ledger, Night Mother Talsin is Maul's mother. She comes from a line of Dathomirian, Zabrak, and Night Sisters. Dathomir is weird lineage-wise. Night Sisters are their own species, but they mate with male Zabrak. Interesting. Imagine the could you imagine if Leslie Headland was just a huge fan of Darth Maul and she just decided to do kind of a story about the Darth Maul lineage and this is the start of it? Because I don't know. There's just something about me that thinks that Mother Coral, again, I'm hoping that's her name, or the Coral Mother, is going to play a big part in this series. Or at least in the story of this all. I don't know. Star-Lord, it's a possibility we will get more flashbacks when the twins are a little older. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure that's going to be the case too. Yeah. Because I'm also remembering back when we saw the teaser trailers, there's a lot of scenes that feature Indara in it that we haven't seen yet. So I'm pretty sure we are definitely going to be going back and forth quite a bit overall. Also, outside of the Star Wars talk, how is everyone doing today? Clone Wars, are you currently on the road right now? Just curious if you're watching while you're on the road. Star-Lord 7, I prefer other routes. Like what, for example? Clone Wars is about to be. Okay, cool. Again, safe travels on that. Lil Saw, I'm not sure if you're still here. Lil Saw let us know that he finished his exams, so I'm curious how he felt like he did. So, Lil Saw, if you're still around, let me know in the comments. Geek Ledger, I personally think the dark side force user we're dealing with is Darth Plagueis Master. Oh, the Master of Darth Plagueis. Interesting. They've never revealed what species Plagueis' master was. Could have been the Zabrak mother. Ooh. Ooh. I kind of like that theory. If that's true. That would be fascinating. I mean, I think a lot of hardcore Star Wars fans have been dying for a Darth Plagueis story when it comes to live action, animation, whatever the case is, right? So it'll be interesting because I do feel like, and I've said this before, I also do feel like this show is going to be where we see the Jedi be introduced to the Sith for the very first time. So knowing that Plagueis was pretty much like the main Sith person at the beginning, it would be kind of interesting to see the origins of all that. Because I do feel like this show is a Sith-centric show at the end of the day, I think. Could be wrong. Again, we're just speculating here, but, you know, we like to talk about this stuff. So, the Dark Force user, I want to know who or what he is. If it's a he, could very much be a she. And like I said, if it's the mother, the Coral Mother, that'll be really interesting to find out. Everybody, or what if? Because I started thinking about recently the Rise of Skywalker, right? And I was watching Red Letter Media's kind of reaction review to it. And the one thing that they were talking about, it's kind of funny how in The Rise of Skywalker, we are introduced once again, Darth Sidious comes back, Emperor Palpatine, and how he was saying that he's a clone, right? Or there are multiple clones, or at least we saw that there were multiple clones of Snook, right? And how they were alluding that he was potentially a clone himself. what if, what if the original Emperor Palpatine that we all know was indeed a clone himself as well? And what if this show reveals the true origin of Palpatine, Darth Sidious? I wouldn't want it to be that, but could you imagine? That would be very interesting to think about. Geek Ledger, well, the Sith have been around as long as the Jedi, but they were wiped out after the Sith Empire fell 900 years before this show and was reformed into the Galactic Republic. All except 2 were killed at the Battle of Coruscant during the Jedi-Sith War, and thus the Rule of 2 was born. Geek Ledger dropping the knowledge on us. Thank you for that. That's all interesting stuff to hear, because I don't go that far back into learning about the lore. I, like most people, enjoy, I guess, learning about it as we are introduced to new shows, movies, and all that. I don't do a lot of reading. So that's very fascinating. I didn't know about any of that stuff. So what you're saying is that the Sith and Jedi were at war, and the Sith were completely wiped out. And that's what led the Jedi to rule, right? Now, is it still safe to say that in this period of this show, that the Jedi probably are not aware that the Sith are still around? They're probably thinking that they're still wiped out, right? So the Sith could still be rebuilding themselves secretly without the knowledge of the Jedi. Star-Lord, they, them, pronouns of a galaxy far, far away. Well, we know Amandla goes by they, so that's not far from the truth. I don't care about the mother's sexual orientation, more force to you. I think nobody here who is at least watching or is in the chat cares about the sexual orientation either. I know the major discourse Geek Ledger said online was that people were, or some fans were upset that 2 women can give birth to forced children, which I think is ridiculous. Doesn't matter. If there's one thing to nitpick about this show, that should be the last of your worries. Clone Wars, I'm officially on the road. Happy trails to you. Good luck. Don't drive angry. Have a safe trip. Stop when you need to pee. Eat when you need to eat. And in a way, we're kind of on the road with you. So thank you for taking us along the ride. Geek Ledger, yes, they're still oblivious to the Sith. That was established in The Phantom Menace when Master Kiamundi said a Jedi has not been seen in 1,000 years. You mean Sith, right? Yeah. Yeah. No, I had a feeling that's what you meant. Yeah. So again, I think it kind of gives you, or it gives you a sense of the arrogance that the Jedi have, the Jedi Order have. So, and I think we're going to see a lot of that being unraveled in this episode. And you can kind of see it too with like Indara's kind of personality. Like she definitely had more of that holier than thou personality when we were introduced to her in episode 1, right? So it'll be kind of interesting to see how all that's going to play out throughout the series. But yeah, like I'll say, I'm glad that the people here, at least who's been tuning in and chiming in, have been happy with this episode for the most part. I think it's going in a good direction so far. Now, the next episode can completely change my mind And then maybe next week I'll be here saying, what the hell is this? Why are we watching this nonsense? I don't know. But so far, I'm kind of liking where they're going. And it's proving to be very interesting television so far. Geek Ledger, I personally think while they've seen May, they just think she's a random dark side force user, but it looks from the trailer that many of the Jedi who confront her master won't survive. Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure that there are people that we've been introduced to that are not going to make it at the end of the series. I mean, to be fair, all of them are dying at one point. That's very clear. But I think within the confines of this show, I do feel like there are some that are going to catch their demise. I do think Master Saul is going to be one of them. Thus keeping the line, a Sith hasn't been seen in a millennia intact. Good point. Very, very good point. It's double the budget of Obi-Wan Kenobi, I heard. Yeah, I think the budget for this was 180 million for the entire season. What I do like, and I mentioned this before, was I love that they're using a lot of practical effects. Now, in this particular episode, we did see some digital effects, especially with like those floaty creatures in the beginning when they were learning about their version of the Force during the training section, and it kind of looked obvious, but it didn't look that terrible. So, I mean, we'll see. You know, I think, was it episode 3 of Obi-Wan where we had the little Leia running around in the woods, running away from Flea? You know, which is better, that or this? To anyone who is complaining about this episode. Clone Wars for Life. Thoughts on James Cameron's Avatar? And are you excited for the one coming out next year? So, Avatar is a very interesting series of movies. When the first movie came out, I thought it was great. I thought it was entertaining, even though it was very much a rehash of older storylines. Immediately, it reminded me personally of Dances with Wolves. I heard some people refer to Fern Gully. But I thought, especially on the technical side of things, what an achievement. You know, and again, it's James Cameron. So he's definitely, you never count him out as a director and what he could achieve. So I really, really liked the first movie. When I heard that he was planning a series of movies, I was like, I think you're carrying it a little bit too far. I mean, how much more can we explore this world? And when the second one was about to come out, I was very skeptical about it all. I remember reacting to the trailers, and I was saying, like, I don't know about this movie, man. I don't know if this is going to be good. So I watched it in the theater, and mine changed. I loved it. I thought it was entertaining, emotional. I loved the progression of the story and the characters. And I thought they did an amazing job with the second movie. And I never thought I would feel this way. It made me excited to see what could be coming next afterwards. I also love how they flipped it, where we are now exploring more of the planet. You know, how in the first one, obviously, it was a lot to do with the woods and the air flying around. I loved how we got to explore the water, underwater on this planet. I'm wondering if the next one is going to maybe explore desert or snow. So I love how he's keeping it fresh with every iteration so far. So, however, guy is getting old, so I don't know, you know, if we're going to have a chance to see all 5 movies in his plan. I hope we do, you know, but I think he needs to pick it up because he does take his time with his movies. And what I also appreciate about Cameron is that with every movie he makes, he tries to do something very new, especially with technology. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens. So Obi-Wan Kenobi, I didn't get a laughing reaction until he went Force Super Saiyan on Darth Vader and threw giant rocks at him. Yeah, that was pretty funny. That was really, really, really funny. The next one is Navi versus Navi. It's going to focus more on fire. Ooh, fire. So maybe volcanic landscapes. That would be cool. Sword, hey, that was worth the wait. It was an epic ending, but again, it just shows you like Obi-Wan's a little bit too soft when it comes to Anakin. He had a chance to end it there, and he didn't take advantage of it. Geek Ledger, yet it still kind of feels on par with Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Ahsoka. Oh, sorry, I missed your first chat. That's a wild price tag for a TV show. Game of Thrones was 10 million an episode, and House of the Dragon was 20 million an episode. Yeah. TV is getting expensive, man. It's crazy to see the budgets they're having for TV and how it now rivals Hollywood movies. But yet, TV at least allows you to expand on storylines and do more character building. So I can kind of appreciate budgets like that for TV, but you have to make it count. Of course, nothing will ever beat the budget for Rings of Power on Amazon, which they spent, what is it, $1 billion if you count not only the license, but the production of the first 2 seasons. Like $500 million on season 1, I think it was. Freaking insanity. And look at the reception that got. Even though personally I think it was an okay show, I'm looking forward to season 2, but I can understand why a lot of people didn't like it at all. So, I mean, look, I know we're very early on in this series. This is only episode 3. How would you rank this series now with everything else live action that we got? So we got The Mandalorian, right? We got Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, Andor, Ahsoka, right? Am I missing anything? I think we only got 5 live action so far, right? So, like I said, it's kind of unfair to do this, but what would you think this may end up falling? For me, Mandalorian is still the top dog, even though season 3 was a disappointment to me. Or Andor. Actually, I would put Andor above Mandalorian at this point. You know, I would say Andor, Mandalorian, possibly this one, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and then Book of Boba Fett. I think that's kind of like where I would rank them. But again, it's still too early to kind of do that right now. What's going on, Suck? Suck is in the house. What did you have a chance to watch The Acolyte, and what did you think about it? Star-Lord, I want every episode that has fighting to be like that. Just Jedi throwing giant rocks. I like the fighting that they introduced in this series, where it's basically force fighting. And again, introduced another rule. Remember in the first episode that Jedis, when they whip out their sabers, that's intent to kill. So that was something that was never explained before, or I think followed, to be honest, because it felt like in the prequels, everyone was whipping their lightsabers out regardless. Geek Ledger, they spent 1.75 billion in total, 750 million for the rights, 500 million for season 1, and 500. Yeah, could you imagine? My God. Freaking Amazon, man. I hope that at least season 2 is enjoyable. Now, I don't know if anyone here actually watched Rings of Power, but I hope season 2 is enjoyable, because season 1, I thought, yes, it was kind of hard to get through, but it did get better, in my opinion, with like maybe the last 5 or 4 episodes. I kind of appreciate where they're going. It looked gorgeous as hell. You could kind of see where the money was going. But story-wise, I hope it's at least enjoyable, because if not, this is pretty much $1.75 billion down the drain for Amazon. And probably the most expensive disappointment when it comes to television in history if it ends up becoming a flop. At least that epic, right? But House of the Dragon is also coming out this weekend too, I think, right? I think the first episode is releasing this weekend. So I think I'm pretty excited about that, even though I've been hearing that it's a letdown from the first season. Geek said, I enjoyed season one. It was slow in the beginning, but it was great in the latter half of the season. Yeah, exactly the way I feel. Clone Wars for Life, what do you think on a movie or show specifically about the different clone legions, such as the 501, the 212, Wolfpack, and the Coruscant Guard? And would you rather the police force or the diplomats? Oh, that's interesting. Hmm. So I feel like if they were to do a show or movie about that, you would have to kind of compare it to the Bad Batch, right? Because basically the Bad Batch was us following clones who worked together as part of a troop, who were kind of ousted, right? Who kind of uh, left the whole order and did their own thing. But at least we get a sense of how they work together. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know if that would lead to interesting television. What would they do? Like, what would we see them do? That's the one thing I would be interested about. Unless you kind of want to make it like Star Wars SUV. Yeah, could you imagine like Star Wars 501 SUV, and it's just like crime, like a crime drama of the week? That would be kind of an interesting take, I think. Every fight should be an epic tale in and of itself. I don't disagree with that. No beating around the bush with force blocks. I mean, I feel like there should be a mix, right? But every battle should tell a story. If they are kind of basing a lot of these fights and battles just like the old kung fu fights, like the old school fights, I think every fight should definitely tell some sort of narrative, right? Especially if you're comparing it to like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I think it'll be interesting to kind of see that play out that way. Geek Ledger, I will say the fact that it got 35 million viewers on the first episode in the first week. The finale only got 12 million. Yeah. Unfortunately, that does say a lot. Yeah. That was crazy to see that stat when they revealed that. Clone Wars, like the missions they are on for the Coruscant Guard, it would be more like hunting down criminals, or if it was the diplomatic part, it would be protecting senators. For the other legions, it would be more like a deep dive into the missions shown in the Clone Wars series. I guess that would be interesting, you know? Again, it all depends on how they formulate the show. You know, like as a viewer, what would be the reason to watch a show like that? You know, so it'll be. I think it could work, maybe. If anything, that would make a great premise for a video game, in my opinion. It'll be kind of interesting to play a video game where you're part of the Coruscant Guard or where you're part of a legion. I think that would be very, very interesting. Starlord, we need emotional content, Bruce Lee. Or actual contact, literally. Because it's clones! What's a great line of Bruce Lee's? Uh, the focus line. Oh man, that was such a great scene where it's like, you know, he's pointing at the moon or something like that. It's like, don't focus on the, you know, on the finger or something like that. By the way, if you haven't seen that documentary on ESPN about Bruce Lee, what was that? Was it on ESPN? I forgot where it was, but it was it Way of Water? I thought that was a very good documentary about Bruce Lee. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up like in about 10 minutes. So let me know your final thoughts on the Acolyte episode 3. or anything else you want to talk about. Imagine a show where it's like you choose your destiny and you get to be the commander or captain of a legion. You mean kind of like didn't Black Mirror on Netflix do something like that where you kind of chose the route to take as the show was playing out? You mean something like that? Stoller, do not focus on the figure or you'll miss out on all the heavenly glory. That is a quote. That is the infamous Bruce Lee quote. Love it. Love it. Well, if that's the case, I think that would be very fascinating. I don't think Disney Plus has a show like that yet. So if you wanted to be creative and interactive with your shows, I think that would be kind of cool to kind of do like a choose your own adventure kind of series to dictate the route you want to take. It's gimmicky, but I kind of appreciate stuff like that personally. Also, as a reminder, just for the next couple of days, I will be back live here again on Friday around noontime. I was a little late today because I actually had some technical problems before running the stream. But I always aim to be live around noontime. Tomorrow is going to be a big movie day for me. I'm going to go to and check out Inside Out 2. I'm going to finally check out The Watchers. And I'm going to check out that new horror movie. What is it called? Hold on, let me look it up right now. It's a movie that is done from the point of view of the killer. It's called, let me pull it up right now. It's called In a Violent Nature. So I got 3 movies on my docket for tomorrow. And Friday, I'm just basically going to spend the stream reviewing and discussing those 3 movies. So yeah. So if you're interested in checking that out, by all means, come on over and hang out. Clone Wars, I feel like that would be a pretty good show. Running water never goes stale, so you just got to keep on flowing. More Bruce Lee. Looking at you, Ray. I'm so curious of what they're going to do with this new Ray movie. I'm so curious about that. Clone Wars for Life. I won't be able to watch Friday because I have 2 or 3 out of my 6 divisions that day. No worries, clones. I know that you're going to be busy with the tournament, so obviously I'll check. You can, catch up with. I'll catch up with you whenever you're done with all that stuff. So, but definitely good luck with all of that stuff. Would love to hear the results out of it all. All right. Any last comments on Star Wars? I guess I could remove this spoiler stuff out of here now. I'll take that down. I'll take that down. If Rey is all the Jedi does that mean she is also a Wookiee? What do you mean by that? Clone Wars for Life. I'm hoping to get on stage for the night show on Saturday, so we'll see how that goes. What is the night show? Like, what does the night show entail? Or I guess, what exercises does the night show entail? I'm curious. One last reminder also to everyone watching live, if you're just tuning in, do me a major favor. You would make me very happy. Just make sure you hit that like button. It helps support the stream, helps support the channel. And for every like this stream gets, an angel gets its wings. If Rey is all the Jedi is, that also the Jedi from the Acolyte. I'm not sure. I understand what you mean. Are you saying like the Wookiee Jedi is the same like Rey? And all he does is just go around and fixes things? Clone Wars for Life. So it's basically the champion of all divisions going against each other to see who's the overall grand champion. Oh, okay. So it's like the finale, right? It's like the cream of the crop. Well, like I said, good luck to you. Fingers crossed. Hope you make it to the Saturday night stage. That would be really awesome for you. And everyone who was at the tournament watches the night show. It's streamed on ESPN? Oh. So if you make it on stage, you have the potential to be live on ESPN. Is it ESPN The Ocho? Or what is it, ESPN 3? ESPN something. So she took all the Jedi power to kill Palpatine. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you mean like at the end of the movie, right? Where she took in all of the encouragement and force powers from all the past Jedi, right? She's kind of like that character in the Marvel comics during Contest of Champions. He was like a superhero from China, and his power is that his strength is built upon all the people who live in China that give him like strength and encouragement, and that's how strong he gets. So Rey got all the force powers from all the Jedi, and everyone was encouraging her like, good luck, Rey, you got this, Rey, and all of that. So I'm pretty sure the Wookiee is part of that too. Yes, we didn't hear the snippet, but I'm pretty sure the Wookiee was in here like, so now she is a Wookiee. She is part Wookiee, yes. That makes her a part of everything at this point, I think. Clone Wars, you enjoy the rest of your drive. Safe travels. Good luck on the tournament. Again, keep us posted as to how well you're doing. Would love to hear. And if somehow you could let us know if you do make it on stage for Saturday night, let us know so that if we have a chance, we could watch it too. Awesome. All right, y'all. I think we're going to call it. Geek Ledger, breaking news. Sony Pictures has purchased Alamo Drafthouse. What? Hold on. Is that for real? Wow. Wait a minute. What happened? Sony was so pissed off with the talks with Paramount that they decided to go after somebody else? All right, hold on. I gotta check this news out. That was a perfect Wookiee impression. Thank you. No worries, clone. Hold on. Let's see here. Oh, here it is. Wow. I'm here on the Hollywood Reporter. All right, I'm going to share this article with everyone. This is something to close off on for sure. Sony Pictures acquires Alamo Drafthouse Cinema in landmark deal that puts studios back in theater game. Isn't this what I've been saying before? I was saying, and I don't remember if I said this on stream or in a video, or if I was just talking to friends. Eventually, we're going to see studios buying up theater chains in order to justify putting their movies out in theaters and not worry about streaming and all that. And now Sony has a platform to showcase their films because they have no streaming service. I know they wanted to talk with Paramount and probably work out a deal with them so that they could have Paramount Plus and Sony stuff together. And that didn't work out, right? And then now we also found out that Sundance and Paramount didn't come to any agreement, so that deal is out. But wow, this is big news. Geek Ledger, I thought this was also illegal too, but I guess now there's something going on. So let's read this. So for more than 7 decades, studios weren't allowed to own an exhibition company under the Paramount consent decrees, which they were rescinded in 2020. See, that I didn't know. All right. In a groundbreaking moment, Sony Pictures Entertainment has acquired Alamo Drafthouse in a deal that puts major Hollywood studio back in business of owning a movie theater for the first time in more than 75 years. From 1948 until 2020, the U.S. Department of Justice prohibited film distributors from owning an exhibition company under what was known as the Paramount Consent Decrees, which arose from a 1948 U.S. Supreme Court ruling. The decrees essentially dismantled the old Hollywood studio system by forcing the majors to divest of their theater holdings. See, I didn't know that thing ended in 2020. So that's really interesting to see. At that time, the majors essentially controlled all aspects of filmmaking, from the talent to the productions to the theaters. The decrees forced exhibitors to stop practices like block booking, bundling multiple films into one theater license, and circuit dealing, entering into one license that covered all theaters in the theater circuit. The landscape was radically different then, however. There were no multiplexes but one-screen theaters that could play one movie for months, a scenario which played into favoritism. Sony is the first major Hollywood studio to step forward and test the waters since the decrees were rescinded. The only major film producers to acquire theaters since 2000 were Netflix and Amazon. Yeah, Netflix has a theater here in New York City, the Paris Theater. They also, like this article is about to say, they have the Egyptian Theater in LA. Blah, 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 blah. Amazon had the same aim when buying the old ArcLight location in downtown Culver City in Los Angeles. I'm a huge fan of ArcLight, by the way. Although that cinema is a first-run theater, meaning Amazon has to book new movies in addition to its offerings. In a reverse twist, the world's largest cinema owner, AMC Theaters, got into the distribution business last year when acquiring rights to Taylor Swift's Eras Tour documentary. Alamo filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in 2021 when it was still reeling amid the COVID-19 pandemic. I know they also closed down a bunch of their locations across the country too. Altamont Capital, Fortress Investment Group, and League emerged as its owners post-bankruptcy. Sources say other parties looking at Alamo included Cinemark and major exhibitor in Latin America. Alamo is hardly the only exhibitor who considered or is considering bankruptcy in the aftermath of the pandemic and the writers and actors strikes, which has slowed the content pipeline to a trickle. Wednesday's announcement stressed that Alamo Drafthouse, an independent chain with 37 locations that has been at the forefront of in-theater dining and other consumer-friendly initiatives, will continue to be run by Alamo CEO Michael Kusterman, under a new division that he'll also be in charge of Sony Pictures Experiences. Sony said the deal reinforces its long-held commitment to theatrical exhibition and continued initiatives in experimental entertainment. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Here's a quote. "We are excited to make history with Sony Pictures Entertainment and have found the right home and partner for Alamo Drafthouse Cinema," said Kusterman in a statement. "We were created by film lovers for film lovers. We know how important this is to Sony, and it serves as further evidence of their commitment to the theatrical experience. Together, we will continue to innovate and bring exciting new opportunities for our teammates and moviegoers alike," added Tom Rothman, chairman and CEO of Sony Pictures Motion Pictures Group. "Alamo Drafthouse has always held the craft of filmmaking and theatrical experience in high esteem, which are fundamental shared values between our companies. I'm jazzed that our company is doing this." saying Alamo will continue to operate all 35 of its cinemas. They own Fantastic Fest. Blah, blah, blah. Company's headquarters still remains in Austin, Texas. Let's see. And then they're talking about some of the experiences that they do. Sony also owns Crunchyroll. That also does a lot of special theatrical releases too. So guess what? Expect Alamo to be holding a lot of anime festivals, film festivals. And then it gives a little bit of history about Alamo Drafthouse. We are beyond thrilled to join forces with Sony Pictures Entertainment to expand our company vision to be the best damn cinema that has ever or will ever exist now in ways we could only ever dream of, said Alamo founder Tim League. Says, on one hand, Alamo has been battling serious financial problems. It's a win for Alamo. I will say that for sure. And obviously, it's a win for Sony. The only theater chain in the country with a very specific and well-honed personality. One you can trace back to the company's roots of single-room theater founded in downtown Austin. Yeah, I guess my only question is, how much of the personality of Alamo will remain? My only fear is that it may end up becoming corporate. I don't think that's the case if they let them continue to run things the way they want to run it. Yeah, see, this article says the same question. Will Alamo be able to keep its independent spirit now that it's under major studio ownership? Although generally speaking, studios aren't involved with such things as pre-show ads or cinema policies. That's up to the exhibitors. Yeah, this article mentions that a lot of the stuff that Alamo does that I personally appreciate has always been like kind of like their pre-show stuff, kind of how like they parody on the movie that you're about to watch. They pull up a lot of stuff from the internet. It's a fun experience, especially for cinephiles. Wow, that is such big news. Thank you, Geek Ledger, for letting me know about that. Wow. Let me get to some of the chats. Star-Lord, theater never dies. Time for more Kristen Stewart movies and guys getting busted. That's funny. What's going on, Tech Rider? How's it going? Sherry Redstone, kamikaze the deal when Skydance wanted to do stock buyback and go private so they could just make movies and not have to deal with Wall Street. Yeah, that was crazy. Sony Parks when? Well, I don't know. I feel like now there's going to be a lot of Sony-specific property movie festivals and events at Alamo now. Sony also bought Funimation. That's correct. Yes. I think Alamo was the only theater chain left that didn't run ads, only trailers. Well, yeah. Well, they curated their content of pre-show stuff. So unlike Regal that has this Nuvi thing where they do a lot of advertisements and a lot of tie-ins to movies, or AMC with the Nicole Kidman stuff and all their advertisements and trivia and all that stuff, Alamo themselves catered the pre-show experience with funny little vignettes, things that they pull from YouTube, parodies that they find, little things, little funny quips here and there. So I hope they maintain that, because that is indeed the charm of Alamo Drafthouse, especially the indie nature of it all. But you also see like Alamo has been trying really hard to get more in with bigger Hollywood, right? They're doing a lot of first time screenings, special premiere screenings, at least the ones here in New York. They're doing a lot of see it first for the first time before anyone else, like weeks ahead of time. So now Sony has a venue to kind of do a lot of that stuff. Sony, outside of Columbia Pictures, they do have an indie sector to their business. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of that stuff involved in it all. But this sets a major, major precedence moving forward now. And like I said, I guess since Sony doesn't really necessarily have a streaming platform, Now they have a movie theater chain, you know? So you have Netflix with their kind of movie theater chains or their movie theaters, the Egyptian in LA, the Paris Theater here in New York, Amazon with their ArcLight, but they kind of run it more as a regular movie theater chain because they have to show first run movies along with their own movies and MGM titles. Now we have Sony with Alamo. Wow. Big deal, man. This is crazy news. Crazy news. What does everyone think about it? You know what they say about theaters with big screens? They have longer run times? My local theater chain does local ads and movie trivia, which is a little more digestible. Yeah, I like it when you have more of that local feel. You know? Geek Ledger, what is your local movie theater chain? Because here I have access to AMC and Regal. Alamo is a little bit of a drive away, but I could go to an Alamo if I wanted to in Brooklyn. The Manhattan has an Alamo also. We don't have Cinemark. Cinemark, I think, is a couple of states away. But those are the major chains I have in my area. I think AMC Networks should merge with AMC Cinema. That's a partnership too good to pass up. Yeah, well, especially since a lot of people confuse AMC, the network, with AMC, the movie theater chain. So that would be kind of interesting if they finally did something like that. And then you could see like Walking Dead premieres at AMC theaters, you know, or what's that? The Anne Rice stuff. Arkansas Theater Group. Oh, interesting. Okay. Me as a big movie fan, I love hearing local theater chains or hearing about them. Whenever I go travel, I always try to visit local theater chains or the mom and pop theaters because those are always the best. Starlord said he saw a video where two guys cleaned up an abandoned theater. Damn near restoration. Oh, that's awesome. Did they turn it into their own independently owned theater? This is crazy news, man. I wow. Could you imagine how this would? One, I'm happy for Alamo because now they have a major studio that is now backing them, funds wise, right? Because yeah, they have been suffering financially for a while. I also think they expanded a little bit too fast. I forget how many theaters they closed down across the country, but when they filed for bankruptcy, they did close down a good amount. Recently, they announced, was it last week, that 3 theaters in the Texas area alone had to be closed down? Alamo, like 3 or 4. So I think a lot of people were freaking out about that and were kind of speculating that this could be the potential end of Alamo. So it's nice for someone to come in and rescue them in a way. What the implications are afterwards, I'm not sure. But I think this is one of the best moves Sony has made in the last couple of years, to be honest with you. Because we all see that their video game division is suffering. And I don't think they have a clear idea of what they're doing there on that front. Their technology division hasn't been that great or has been like in the top spot for a while now. You know, with companies like Samsung and LG doing better. So this is a major win for Sony, I think, in my opinion. You know, and now Sony has a place to focus their releases on, hold screenings for some of their stuff. And I think this allows Alamo to do more of what they've been trying to do. But I think it's safe to say that the majority of us will hope that they maintain their independent nature and their charm and personality that Alamo has kind of made us familiar with and we are accustomed to. Because it would really suck if they start becoming a little bit corporate. That would be a shame. But at the same time, it wouldn't be a surprise because it's business, right? And that tends to happen. So I guess this kind of, for now, leaves Sony off the hook in attempts to try to create a streaming platform or partner with someone for a streaming platform, because they are the first studio to really put focus on theatrical distribution instead of streaming. So I kind of, commend them for that, with that type of focus. I think that's a really good job on their part. So we'll see how it'll be interesting to see how the other studios react to all of this, and the fan base outside too, like the cinephiles and all that. I'm very curious what the discourse is going to be, because this is going to definitely blow things up. Sony is now as cool as PlayStation now. That's hilarious. I think Sony has partnered with Netflix for first run streaming and Disney Plus for second run streaming. Is that legit? Or do you think that's what they're going to do eventually? Like, I don't think that's currently the case, right? That's a deal they signed last year. Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. So they got all their ducks in a row, I think, at this point. Could we say that maybe Sony is a big winner of the week? Alamo definitely is, because I think they got rescued, and I'm happy for that. That theater chain deserves to be around. Why can't we get video game theaters? Imagine that. Hey, I wouldn't be surprised, if there was going to be a theater chain that would possibly have like video game like events. I could see Alamo being that theater chain to do that, especially since they have locations across the country. Does everyone here have an Alamo near them, or an Alamo they have access to? I'm curious, because I have 2 I can go to if I wanted to. 3 if I wanted to drive maybe another hour, because there's one up in Yonkers. The last duck they need is a TV station. I mean, if Paramount or Disney ever sells off CBS or ABC, like there have been rumors of, they would be set. I wonder, though, at this point in time, is it important to own a network station? Is it still important? I guess maybe, right? For like the older generation. Theaters compete online multiplayer, and winner takes all theater revenue. Although that would be kind of cool if they had theater multiplayer events where you have people like competing with each other in all the theater locations with online multiplayer, like a giant battle, and everyone's playing on the big screens. That would be kind of funny. Sony Columbia owning CBS, aka Columbia Broadcast System, would be poetic. That would be, actually. That would be. Because they do have already a television division, right? Sony and Columbia. I know they produce a lot of TV shows. So it would be kind of interesting if they ever got to that point where they could potentially own a network station. I just wonder like how viable, or I guess in a revenue standpoint, how important that is right now in this current landscape when people are leaving cable and TV in general and just focusing on streaming. But it's interesting to see like what they're doing now on the movie side of things. So I got to give it to them. They seem to be, at least that division knows at least what they're doing, unlike their other divisions in Sony. But I think at the end of the day, I'm most happy for Alamo because they get to survive in this crazy world of movie theater chains that are suffering in this landscape. So how much further along do we start hearing about conversations of other studios maybe potentially partnering with a Regal, a Cinemark, or an AMC? I'm curious. I'm curious as to what's going to happen there. And I guess that would be a conversation to have at another time altogether, right? That's the future when we all got our shit together. Emmys are big right now. Shogun, The Bear, Ted Lasso, Severance, House of Dragon, quality TV. Yes, but if you everything that you just mentioned there, that's all streaming. You know, you don't really hear about network television, or shows on network television. That's all streaming. Or am I wrong? Do they show The Bear or Ted Lasso on network television? I don't think so. I think Sony now it's nice that they have a deal with Netflix and Disney Plus for their first and second run movies. They need to team up with some streaming platform, I think, when it comes to their shows. Maybe Hulu. I don't know. But Hulu is Disney, so it's the same thing. The Bear and Shogun are on FX on cable. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. I don't have cable, so I don't know. But I guess that makes sense, yeah, because they always advertise FX, right? So interesting stuff, guys. Unbelievable. What a way to end the stream here too, with such a big drop of a bomb there from Sony. But that is fantastic stuff. Thank you again, Geek Ledger, for letting me know of that. I love it when news kind of drops and you guys let me know about that stuff. But I'm going to head off for now because I do have things I have to do. And I have to prepare some other things that I'm working on the channel for the next day or two. But thank you again for tuning in. Really, really had fun. Appreciated this conversation. What an ending to the stream, too, to talk about such a major news drop. But big shout out to Starlord7, Clone Wars for Life, Geek Ledger. Always a pleasure having you here. Tech Writer. Great to see them there. Lil Saw, Chris. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Ghost of Garulatis. I hope I said that right. Garulatis. I hope I got that right. Kevin Davis. Thank you so much for everyone who tuned in and everyone who was just watching. Really appreciate the support. Again, don't forget, hit that like button before you head on out. But I'm going to head on out for now. And Starlord with one last thing saying, and AI robots will serve us popcorn. That would be the dream. That would be the dream. Very much like how you have the robots in restaurants in Japan and all that. But I'm going to go. Again, I'll be back again on Friday with my mega movie review stream. If you want to hear my thoughts on Inside Out 2, The Watchers, and that other movie, I forgot the name of it right now, make sure to tune in on Friday. And hopefully I can catch you whenever I get a chance to catch you. So with all that being said, enjoy the rest of your day. Stay cool, stay class, stay safe. May the force be with you. See you all next time. Bye, everybody. Appreciate y'all.